So I want to welcome everyone to what I refer to as my Unsung Heroes series. We actually started out interviewing women business owners during Women's History Month, and then quickly began to realize that every month should be Women's History Month. And so through this series, it's my objective to interview exceptional entrepreneurs that are shaking up their industries. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with two of my favorite people. Yay! Sandra Martinez and Hilary Beck from In Play Showroom. So welcome, and welcome to you both.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your strategies for success with us, because you guys have really accomplished some major things. And I am just really excited about what's happening in your business. And you've worked hard for it. You've earned it. So, and there are a lot of people that I know that want to be where you're at. So we're looking for the secret, right? Don't tell us what we already know. Tell us what we don't know. Or what we need to know. So In Play Showroom actually began, well, first of all, tell everybody what In Play Showroom does.
You got it. I think that's one of our hardest things to describe to people outside of the industry, but we're a sales agency. So we are the middlemen between a brand and the buyer or retailer. So essentially brands hire us to get their products into stores, manage that relationship, build that relationship, and then also consult with them on developing and building the line for growth year over year.
Right.
Yep, and currently we have 4 locations throughout the U.S. So for most of our brands, we handle national distribution to everyone from Zappos and Nordstrom to your local boutique.
Yeah, see, one of the things that I find is really interesting with what I've learned about the industry from working with you is the fact that a lot of showrooms will act as a sales agent, but the one thing that you really bring to the table that other showrooms don't is really the consulting arm. I am always continually amazed at how you guys have your eyes and your ears on what is going on in your industry, and are so willing to share that with your brands. And I've got to believe that your brands have come to really rely on you to deliver this intel. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, and I would say that was a very early learning for us, where we saw we succeeded the most with the brands that were willing to listen to us and willing to truly be a partner. As you know, with our strategy over the years, we've aimed to work with fewer brands, but on a bigger scale. And in doing that, one of our asks is that from the beginning that they're willing to listen to us and have us contribute to the development of the product, and if everything from the pricing and what's selected to the deliveries and
the client base, distribution, deliveries.
So it was very clear to us pretty early on that where we really succeeded were the brands that really let us be part of the development. And truly what we've seen from every side of the industry, that any brand that doesn't listen to its salespeople is truly walking away from a huge resource, where the people that are out there that are showing the product, that are getting the feedback, that are having those, face-to-face conversations. And many times you have designers, merchandisers, owners who are in an office, many, many miles, countries away, and they're making decisions based on a very small amount of information or their opinions and tastes, not necessarily making those decisions based off of what the retailers want to buy and where the information that they're giving us when we're out selling.
It's kind of interesting. You bring up a really good point about how many times in a business we bring in resources and then we don't really, and I'm talking about your brands, not listening necessarily to the resources and what the resources have to say. So you're right. It's walking away from a valuable asset to their strategy. So I want to go back a little bit. So In Play was actually started in 1989, correct? The showroom was actually established. And then, Sandra, my understanding is that you were actually an employee of the In Play showroom, and then you turned around and bought it.
Yes, I started with In Play in 1999, and I worked with the showroom for 3 years, and then I left. I went to work for American Apparel. I launched their children's line, worked there for about 3 years, production, sales, marketing, top to bottom. It was a vertical company. I learned a lot. I learned that I do not want to do production, so I came back to In Play and essentially bought into the business and took it from there.
So, you know, that would seem to be, for a lot of people, a risky strategy to buy into versus starting something and launching something from scratch and bootlegging, right? Does that feel risky to you?
Oh, 1,000%. And I wasn't ready. The previous owner kind of coerced me into it. She's a good friend as well, and she's always led me in the right direction. And she was on her second baby. She was ready to go. And at that point, she had been calling me, hey, I know I heard you're not happy where you're at, and I would like you to come back. And we went back and forth. And at some point, she wanted me to come back as an employee. And I just thought, I can't, I don't want to do that. It's going backwards. And essentially she called me and said, okay, you know what? I think I want you to take over. I'm over it. And I don't want the business to just finish. And I know you would do a good job. And at that point, I did think, there's no way. I don't have a penny to my name. How am I going to do this? Owning my own business. And she said, I'll walk you through it. You're going to be fine. And I called a few key people in my life at that point. One of them was an old client. And, I remember him saying, and to this day, he's a client of ours and good friend. And I remember him saying, I don't give a lot of people career advice, but I think you should do it. And then I called my older brother and I said, I don't know what to do. I'm so confused. There's a deadline now. I have to give an answer. And my brother said, we're not going to let you sleep on the street, so you may as well do it. We're going to support you. And then I just said, okay, F it, I got to do it.
Yeah. So you had a lot of support around you, but even so, I've got to believe that it was still probably lends itself to some fear and trepidation. So,
and it was mental support, it was emotional support, it was not financial support. And I had to dive in, and I was working 16-hour days, 7 days a week. It was nonstop for the first few years, just building and building.
So knowing of what it took, right, for you when you first started, when you bought the business, what advice would you give to someone who is thinking about a similar situation, but maybe has the same kind of fears and concerns?
I mean, I would say if you're passionate about it, if you have a vision for it and you're ready to work hard and just put yourself out there, it's doable. And I think the biggest thing is it was just a matter of reaching out to people and being true to myself and saying, hey, this is what I do. This is who we are. These are the brands we have, and working really tightly with our retailers. And it's always been that relationship that we have, from a small boutique on Main Street to a big buyer for 122 stores. We have a same relationship. It's honest. There's integrity. I want to sell them what's going to sell. We only sell what we believe in, and we're very true to that. And I think that's helped us get along. We never try to oversell. We don't sell product that we don't believe in. And, that I feel is what keeps us in line and allows us to grow the way we grow and to earn that trust from our clients and our brands.
Well, and it was kind of interesting because in preparation for today, I was looking at your website, and I love the mission being up front and center, that we exceed expectations. And from what I know about both of you and working with you and your company, I think, boy, did they nail it, because you guys really do. And I love that. I love that you're a values-based business and that those values are important to you and that you lead with those values, because a lot of companies today don't always do that, right? So you guys are such a good example of what can be accomplished, really, truly, when you are following the path that you're supposed to be on. So then you bought the company, and then Hilary, you joined the team in 2008. You came on as a member of the executive team and a partner. And the studies and the statistics on partnerships are not good, right? They're but you guys make it work. So what do you do? How do you make your partnership work so well?
I think we're very lucky. So, I mean, I think we have a very rare relationship, and, we're both very grateful to have it. And I think that we don't take that for granted, that there's many people that would be able to do what we do with their friend or have a friend like that in their lives. So it's pure luck in certain aspects. But I think we did a couple things early on, not even purposefully or intentionally, that really set us up for success, which was, I think our expectation for the first year was, let's see how it goes. This was my first, have been in this industry for many years, but I haven't been on this side of the business. And so we walked into it kind of saying, let's try it for a year and see how it goes, and then go from there. And at the end of every week, we kind of would do a gut check. Are we good? Are we still friends? How'd that go? Honestly, it really was week by week at the beginning, and just checking in with each other. And part of that was that we started carpooling to work from day one. And that we lived very close to each other, obviously, but I think that set a lot of things on course with kind of the evenness of how we worked. And it was, we went to work together, we left work together, we checked in with each other on the way to work, leaving work. So we always had a little bit of that time and that ability to check in outside of being at the office, which I think many people know, but when you tell people you work together all day, and then they'll be like, well, what do you talk about, when you're hanging out socially? And it's oddly, we have a lot to talk about, because when you're at the office, you're so in your silo and you're very focused and you're getting through what you have to get through, that it's really a mental shift to then spend time together socially, or even in the car ride. It's very different places during the day. So I think that was kind of something we did to honestly save a couple bucks a month, a couple $100 a month in parking. But I think it worked out really well, and we've really been carpooling almost all the time for over 10 years now. So
wow.
I think that was a great choice that we unknowingly made together.
I also feel that, one of the things that definitely helps us is our balance. I feel like a lot of and again, this is an organic situation, but essentially, the things that I'm not a huge fan of, Hilary's very talented at, and vice versa. So we can easily balance the projects, the clients, whatever needs to be done. And that's worked really nicely, because, a lot of times there's things that just I'm stuck at, or I don't want to do, or whatever, and she's willing to take over, and vice versa. And that's been really good for us throughout the years as well, because it allows us both to, work on things that we want to work on, and we do it well, because we're doing something that makes us happy and that uses our talents and that helps the other partner, balance it out. And I feel like I'm very, very grateful for that.
Yeah. I know you know this, but we're a bit of opposites in many ways. And so that is very complementary to us in work and in friendship. But I will also say that one of the biggest reasons we started working with you, Jackie, was because we also had a point at which we realized that A, we wanted to grow our business, and B, we wanted to maintain our friendship. And Sandra, I think, definitely saw that and, said, I think we should bring in someone else to make sure we're able to accomplish both of those goals. And having an outside voice to talk us through things, ask us questions, and help us navigate that was another key decision that I think really has played a big part in our work success, but also the fact that we're still friends and travel together socially and as well as for work, and really still enjoy each other's company.
Absolutely.
You know what I think is so interesting? In fact, I was talking about you, the two of you today, because that was the thing that really struck me too when we first met, is that the strengths that each one of you had that were complementary to the other person. And what I've seen over the years is how you've also worked to bridge those. That, Hilary, you're starting to develop strengths in the areas that previously might not have been there for you. And Sandra, you're doing the same. And the two of you are really coming together so nicely in that partnership. Instead of being, two partners, it's really more of that conglomeration of one.
Thank you.
So it works well. Yeah. So the other thing too, you mentioned, Hilary, about the growth. And so you started from this humble beginning, right, in Los Angeles. And you mentioned about your showroom in Dallas and New York and Atlanta now. And so what was your strategy for that expansion nationwide?
Well, the thought started with the recession. We started having a lot of stores that started closing down. And at that point, we were, thinking, how are we going to grow if the stores aren't growing? If anything, they're closing. So we thought we should expand our territory, where there are stores closing, but there's still a lot that are there that we don't necessarily work with at the time. So we just started doing trade shows on our own, going to New York. We expanded to New York first, and just brought along some of the brands that didn't have representation out there, that liked the way we work, that were willing to give us a shot. And we just started that way and started getting on the radar of new stores, existing stores that never really saw our brands, et cetera, and it kind of grew from there, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead, Hilary.
Well, I think part of it was too, I was a buyer previously, and I had seen I'd worked as a buyer for adults and kids, but I worked with a lot of other showrooms. And so in the adult side of the business, I had adult clothing, of course. Everyone likes to go towards adult when I say adult.
especially when you don't have kids of your own, right?
Yeah. So anyway, I'd seen a lot of bi-coastal showrooms in that time, in my time in the industry. And so I knew that there had been success with that more on the adult side of the apparel and footwear industry. And so when we were looking at how do we continue to grow, like the West Coast business, it's not great right now. People are closing down. Where are we going to find growth? And that was a first step. Okay, let's start going to the East Coast. Let's pick up that business. How do we start doing that? Trade shows. And once we built to a certain amount, we leased a portion of a showroom, hired a person. Then once we grew that, then we leased our own showroom. So it really was a function of necessity of, this is only going to go so far, and if we want to continue to grow, we're going to have to think outside of what we've been doing. And that, was just a step-by-step process, and each showroom, I think, has been a leap of faith. And, I think we listened to a ton of podcasts on people starting businesses, and it's very reassuring that you can never have all of the information. At a certain point, it's just a gut check and a leap that you take, and you do your best to strategize and plan, but you just kind of gotta put it out there at some point and do the work and hope for the best. So
it's
and I think people, And I think once people started seeing, the hard work and how we worked, it was really nice to just form those relationships with those key people, and then it kind of grew from there. So we had a lot of support from retailers that we met that jived with us.
What's interesting about the way you're talking about, your partnership and your strategy for growth and all of that, there are two things that really stand out for me is flexibility. It probably in both, actually, that would be one thing, flexibility in that you weren't so rigid about your roles and your plan. And so when something wasn't fitting, rather than work harder to make it fit, you guys learned to pivot and be flexible. And that's really served you well. And I love too the way you talk about having a leap of faith, because there is that element that's never in a strategic plan of any sort, where it's that, where's that line item, that's that objective that says, check your gut, take a leap of faith. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist in the quote unquote strategic planning world, but yet it's such a big part of it.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that that's one of the things that with our partnership, we've always been very grateful to have each other. Sandra, when we were talking about working together, said, I just don't want to do this by myself anymore. And I think one of the things is that no matter the ups and downs of days or months or years, we both are very aligned on the fact that neither one of us wants to do this by ourselves.
right.
So you make it work, but to have another person there with you in those big decisions and kind of saying like, I'm feeling this. Are you feeling this? Yeah, I'm feeling that. Then we're kind of both, it gives you that reassurance, I think, that allows you to take bigger leaps sometimes than you would be able to by yourself.
Absolutely.
I think that's such a good point, because we talk a lot about solopreneurs and how isolating it can be, working alone. And then you look at the other side, the risk of a partnership, right? And things that can happen. But yet there is something magical about and the collaboration and the creativity that comes, the energy that comes when you can kind of, like a Thelma and Louise moment, you can drive off a cliff together.
It's true.
Yeah. There's alcohol involved before those cliff drives. But.
Yes, that's right. Of course, always. So you mentioned about the podcast. Do you have a favorite you would share?
How I built this was definitely the first one, I think, from a purely company brand building aspect that we heard, that I think, again, immediately we felt very reassuring, because I think all of those insecurities and those feelings that you have about question and doubt, and even as small as coming up with a price of something, and you hear about other people going through that and how they had those same feelings, it was very reassuring that nobody has all the answers. And so often we know this, but I think hearing it, you see companies from the outside and you just assume they have it all together and they have it all figured out. And you're the one that's struggling, and you're the one that's questioning and doubting. And so hearing people be very honest about their doubts and struggles and random luck, I think it's very reassuring as someone that's running, or people that are running their own business, to know that you're not alone in that. And that's a normal part of the process. Also, Without Fail is one that we've been listening to quite a bit lately, and I think it's been really, really good.
I've been listening to Second Life. Did you know that one yet? Mm-hmm. It's an all-women's podcast, and it's essentially how women's careers have developed from one to the other, and that's a really good one.
Oh, interesting.
Second Life.
That's
like a
Second Life.
Exactly. It's good.
I love it. So I want to be very mindful of your time, because I know you guys are super busy, and I am so appreciative that you would take this time to share, because I got to tell you, the two of you amaze me. I am so excited for you and what you've accomplished over the years and how you both have grown. And when we talk about shaking up the industry, you guys really are shaking up your industry. in terms of how you work, the way you work with your companies, how you lead with your heart, and your dedication and your commitment to your brand. It's really true. It's nothing you just give lip service to, but you really, it definitely is from the heart. So one last question, what advice would you give to a business owner, maybe in a similar situation, considering buying a business, growing a business? What would you tell them?
Make time for yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
Find balance.
Carve out time for yourself, for self-care, I think.
I agree. We always say that's one of the best things that you taught us, was to make time for ourselves, to be able to regroup and be present when you are there. I think right now, one of the biggest things for me in this moment is not leading with ego. I think it's so present right now in the world in general, but in business especially, just to see people that do things based off of their egos and make decisions based on their egos, and how that affects not just them, but everyone around them in such a negative way, that I think that's one of the things I've been extremely conscious of this year, is doing a gut check on, why do we want to do this? Is it for the betterment of the company and the employees and where we want to go? Or is it because it's feeding an ego that, it feels good? So I think for me right now, seeing small companies in growth, I feel like that's one of the biggest tripping points you see out there.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's a good final word about, leading from the heart, doing the gut check, not doing it from an ego standpoint. And you're right. That's where I think, as leaders of value-based companies, where we can really make a difference, not only in our own business, but in the business world overall, which could use some coming back to the center, if you will, in terms of not political center, but coming back to the center in terms of service to other people.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So thank you both so much. I just can't tell you how much I appreciate you and how much fun it is to watch you. I can't wait to see what the next chapter holds for you.
Thanks,
Jackie.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
We'll talk again real soon.
Yes,
okay.
for sure.
Bye now.
Bye, Jackie.